The waters shimmered darkly beneath the canyon walls of Blind Frog Ranch, their surface betraying no hint of the labyrinthine secrets below. Morning light filtered through the mist, casting ghostly beams across the still pond where the divers prepared, their wetsuits slick and glinting like obsidian armor. The air was silent but heavy with anticipation. Somewhere beneath them, behind collapsed rock and tangled roots, a mystery waited in the drowned heart of the earth. The lead diver, a seasoned explorer whose name had passed in whispers across many expeditions, adjusted his gear in a practiced ritual. Each movement was deliberate. Around him, his small team moved in sync, their expressions unreadable behind their masks, but their body language taut. They knew the risks. This dive was unlike others, a blocked cavern system revealed by recent seismic activity. One long-rumored, but never explored old legends clung to this part of the Utah desert like the dust on ancient bones. Stories of treasure buried by conquistadors, strange metals unearthed by unsuspecting ranchers, and inexplicable malfunctions of electronic gear. Locals spoke of shimmering lights at night, of the land swallowing tools and cattle alike. Most dismissed them as frontier myths. But Blind Frog Ranch had proven time and again that truth often wore a stranger mask. A rope tied to a pine on the water's edge served as a lifeline as the divers descended. Visibility shrank instantly, the light swallowed by suspended silt. Faint glimmers from headlamps illuminated submerged logs and ancient detritus, remnants of flash floods and time. The water grew colder as they dove deeper, pressure gnawing at their limbs. Then, at last, the entrance loomed. A jagged rupture in the bedrock, flanked by fallen boulders, and narrow enough to test the calmest nerves. Each diver moved in single file, flattening themselves to squeeze through the gap. Their tanks scraped stone. Beyond, the narrow tunnel opened into darkness. The cavern was a void that seemed to breathe, inhaling their presence into itself. The divers' lights flickered against walls marked by mineral streaks, delicate stalactites hanging like teeth from the ceiling. The silence of the deep was absolute, broken only by the hiss of air and the muted rush of water. They pressed forward. The first chamber appeared like a cathedral carved by ancient hands. The ceiling soared into blackness, disappearing into mist. Columns of stone reached upward in frozen reverence. On the floor, amidst sediment and broken rocks, something gleamed faintly. The lead diver approached. It was metal, dull with age but unmistakably shaped, part of a box or a frame, half buried. Carefully, he brushed away the muck. Symbols appeared, etched into the surface. Not English, not Spanish, not anything he'd seen before. He motioned to the others, cameras rolling silently. The air grew colder still, a change they felt even beneath the wetsuits. It wasn't natural. Something was off. Lights flickered again. A pulse. No noise accompanied it, no tremor, but each diver felt it. An unseen ripple that passed through the water like a warning. Instruments briefly scrambled. Compasses spun. Then, calm. Stillness. The team hesitated. But turning back wasn't an option. Not yet. They moved deeper into the system, through another choke point. This passage had partially collapsed. Jagged rocks had fallen inward, creating a dangerous bottleneck. One wrong move could dislodge tons of stone. But the passage beyond beckoned, visible only through a narrow crevice in the rubble. On the far side, it looked open. Dry time passed slowly as they cleared the path. Silent cooperation guided them. Rock by rock, they widened the hole, pushing each stone into a void to the side where it would sink into the silt and disappear. Finally, enough space. The lead diver squeezed through first. His light illuminated a cavern unlike the others. It was no longer submerged. A pocket of air had formed above the waterline, trapped by the surrounding geology. He emerged into it, pulling his mask aside. The air tasted metallic, but breathable. The others followed, climbing onto slick rocks, eyes wide. The cavern was vast. Dry stone underfoot, its walls curved unnaturally, like something shaped it. Not water, not erosion. There were markings. Deep grooves in repeating patterns, spiraling along the walls, punctuated by strange symbols. A language? A warning? On the far wall, a section of rock had broken away, revealing an angular corridor descending into darkness. This wasn't natural. It was crafted. Deliberate. The architecture echoed ancient civilizations, yet matched none exactly. The team exchanged glances, then advanced, lights sweeping cautiously ahead. A staircase emerged. Covered in thick dust and calcite, it led downward at a steep angle. As they descended, the air thickened. The symbols grew denser, layered atop one another, as though desperate to be seen. And then, a chamber, its floor hexagonal with metallic plates tarnished by time. In its center stood a pedestal. Upon it, a cube, blacker than shadow, smooth and seamless. Lights reflected off it strangely, as though the cube drank illumination rather than reflected it. The divers stood transfixed. One approached, reaching out. As his fingers neared the object, the air shimmered. A low hum vibrated through the stone, subtle but undeniable. The cube remained in it. Yet it had responded. They documented everything, mapping the chamber quickly. Every detail recorded. But time pressed in. Oxygen levels demanded retreat. With reluctance, they backtracked, ascending the ancient stairs, pausing often to listen for tremors or shifting rock. When they reached the air pocket chamber again, something had changed. The water at the edge was rising. It was subtle, inches perhaps, but the current had reversed. Where before the water had flowed sluggishly deeper into the cave, it now moved outward, as if exhaling. The divers hurried, sensing danger. Back through the collapsed passage, now narrower due to minor shifts. The silt was thicker. One diver scraped his tank against the rock. A sharp metallic ring echoed into the deep. The cave responded. The pulse returned. Stronger, not physical, not sound, but real. Instruments spiked. Lights flickered again, then steadied. They moved faster now, urgency overtaking awe. As they exited the submerged tunnel, daylight shimmered above. The rope held. One by one they rose, breaking the surface into the heat of afternoon. They gasped in the dry air, ripping off masks, blinking against the sun. Silence greeted them. The wind had stopped. The trees stood still. Somewhere far off, thunder rolled, though no clouds hung above. It felt like the land itself was watching. On the shore, they regrouped. No words were needed. Each of them had seen, had felt. The cavern wasn't just a hollow in stone. It was part of something older, something intentional. The object remained in the chamber. They'd taken nothing but video and readings. But its presence lingered in their minds, a weight, a question unanswered. That night, back at base, they reviewed footage. At one point, in the moment when the cube had hummed, the cameras had captured something odd. A flash, not of light, but of geometry. A shape superimposed over the room. Brief, alien, like a map of thought made real. Analysis would take time. Geologists, linguists, physicists, they would all be brought in. Quietly, carefully. The mystery at Blind Frog Ranch was far from solved. But now it had a voice. A hum in the dark. And a doorway, long sealed, had begun to open. A low wind swept over the barren land of eastern Utah, stirring dust and old secrets across the jagged terrain of Blind Frog Ranch. The morning sun cast pale golden beams across a shallow pond nestled at the foot of a limestone ridge. Unassuming, silent, and cold. Few would guess the depth of the mystery hidden beneath its surface. By the pond's edge, a small team of divers prepared for descent. Their movements were methodical, rehearsed. Black wetsuits gleamed faintly in the weak light. Oxygen tanks hissed softly. Beneath their calm exterior lay the tight coil of anticipation. The team had come to explore a newly exposed underground cavern, one recently revealed by a landslide after unseasonal rains. For generations, locals had whispered of strange things buried under the ranch. Treasures, artifacts, energies that disrupted electronics, shadows seen in still water. Now there was a path inside. The first diver slipped beneath the surface, breaking the mirrored stillness. The others followed quickly, disappearing into the cold, murky dark. The water grew frigid within seconds, a numbing void swallowing sound and light. Visibility dropped to inches as silt bloomed around them. Only narrow beams from helmet lights cut faint tunnels through the darkness. They descended through narrow underwater channels, guided by a rope secured at the entry point. The walls of the tunnel closed in fast, rough stone scraped against gear as they moved deeper. The passage was tight, jagged, and choked with ancient debris. Tree limbs petrified into stone, rusting metal fragments, and silt-covered bones of small animals long trapped. After nearly 20 minutes of slow, cautious navigation, the tunnel widened abruptly. Their lights fanned out across a partially collapsed chamber. Sharp rock formations jutted from the floor and ceiling. A mound of rubble blocked what appeared to be the main corridor. Collapsed stone and broken supports jammed together, an impassable wall of earth. This was the blockage that had halted previous expeditions.